It's an honor to welcome you to our third annual Black History Breakfast. We are hosting this, yes, please. This is, thank you, hosted by Vernon Community Network and ECHN. We're so pleased to have you here this morning. I'd like to call your attention to some of our elected officials here this morning. We have Senator and Dr. Jeffrey Gordon. Thank you, Senator Gordon, for joining us. And we have many others from our great towns of Vernon and Manchester, town managers, administrators, and other members from the Board of Ed. We have Kwesi and Tim Mensah from the Manchester Board of Ed. And also Mayor Dan Champagne was just here from the great town of Vernon. Unfortunately, he did have a 9 a.m. meeting, so had to step out. But we were pleased he could join us. We have an awesome program again today. I have the great pleasure of introducing the speakers, the poets, and the awesome talent. But first, I'm going to start with our great partner, Terry Lynn Rogers, who serves as the president of the Vernon Community Network and is a member of the Vernon Town Council. Terry?
Thank you. Hi, good morning, everyone. As Nina said, I'm Terry Lynn Rogers, the president of the Vernon Community Network. Thank you all for being here. Just to show of hands, who has been here before? Yippee. And those that have, yes, and those that have not, that you're in for an amazing treat today. So the Vernon Community Network, what we do is we identify and coordinate resources for the enrichment of our community. So basically what we do is we try to bring everything together in a short, quick, efficient way. So part of what I do, as Nina said, I am on the Vernon Town Council, and it is a pleasure being there to be like part of the vision for Vernon. So Nina introduced her her folks. So we have our town council members. Please just raise your hand for me. So these are our Vernon Town Council members. We have our new Vernon Town Administrator, John. So please, John. Then we also have our Chief of Police from Vernon, obviously. So he hasn't been here a year yet, but we're breaking him in really well, and he's doing an awesome job. They both are. So with that, I am going to turn it back over to Nita. So thank you again for attending, and we know the purpose and the reason why we're here today. So thank you very much.
Thanks, Terry. And now I get to introduce our leader for ECHN, our Chief Executive Officer and President, Deborah Weymouth. Deborah?
Thank you. Good morning, everyone. Nina made it clear that we're going to be having talented and wonderful singers and poets. I am not one of them. So just to set the expectations straight. So one, good morning. Thank you very much for being here. Wonderful event, and so appreciated. And it's an honor for me to be here to celebrate Black history and reflect on the impact of Black leaders in medicine, the progress we have made and the work that we still have ahead of us. As a healthcare system, we have a profound responsibility in advancing health equity and inclusion. And these are not just in words, but these are in action. Every patient deserves compassionate, high-quality care that acknowledges their lived experiences and removes any barriers to better health. Black pioneers in medicine paved the way for many of the advancements that we rely on today. For example, Dr. Rebecca Lee Crumpert, the first Black woman physician in the U.S., broke barriers in a time when few opportunities existed for women of color in medicine. Dr. Charles Drew, whose research in blood plasma preservation revolutionized the transfusion medicine process, and it has saved countless lives worldwide. And finally, Mary Eliza Mahoney, with the first Black professional nurse, fought tirelessly for equality in nursing, ensuring that doors remained open for future generations to enter the profession. Their legacies remind us that we have made great strides, but disparities still do exist. At ECHN, we are focusing our attention on maternal health, diabetes, access to behavioral health care services, where transportation remains obviously a significant barrier for many to access care. We are reaffirming our commitment to address these inequities and improve the outcomes for the communities we serve. A key part of this work is to ensure culturally competent care. That means continuous education to ourselves and our teams on bias, social determinants of health, and focusing on the best practices for serving diverse populations with dignity and respect. Our attendance and participation today indicate our continued commitment to shaping a better future. Together, we can drive meaningful change, break down barriers, and create a healthcare system that truly serves all people. Thank you very much for being here, and I will turn it on now to the talented others.
Hi, so I'm Deborah. I'm 17 years old and I'm part of the Allied Health community. I moved here about like 2 years ago. I was born in Haiti and then I moved to New York, and yeah, that's a little bit about me. My poem is Living as a Haitian. Living as a Haitian, something I take such pride in. Rêver ak soleil nan jemwe. The smell of Jack Bundan hitting me immediately, hearing Felimash on the radio, knowing it's time to get ready. As I go into school, I know I'm already different. I see my reflection on the window. I wonder why I don't look like them, have the same hairstyle as them, talk like them. I feel people stare, but that's just my unconscious. My mind goes in a spiral until I hear, Deborah, lauye, moitap shashu. Then I realized I have a friend like me. Same background, same food, same language. That's when reality hit. I love being Haitian. Muere me patisana mue. I will always love this part of me and I will take pride in it.
It is beautiful when you have the CEO herself take center stage and be present at a function like this. Thank you, Deborah, so much for being here. And for all of you who are here, thank you. And I start off my poem by saying this: how nice it is to see a breathtaking expanse, reminds my eyesight of the sea, gives a trance-like feeling, north, south, east, west, the beauty of people cohabiting in unity and understanding, nurturing growth with love, fertilized only by compromises, loving me for who I am, acknowledging my words. I am proud to be black and human. All right, that was for starters. This one is called Without a Smile. So with my poems, I try to provoke attitudinal thinking, where the words must sink in and then you go back and think about it. So without a smile, how are you? Without a smile. Set to me closer than a mile. Knife in the right hand, the Bible in the left, steel-toed boots on both feet. Attempting to climb a ladder that needs nimble feet. That is no small feat. Remove the veil. It clouds your vision. Tainted with years of jealousy. Tainted very dark with dirty myopic bias. At this point, we need eye drops of not judgment and acceptance. Use both drops twice hourly. Get rid of this deficiency. Unveil your thoughts. How many of you like pie? Okay, so my last one is titled The Pie. It so happened that the famine was so severe, each was hungry and sought to make life afresh. So hand in hand, under the blazing sun, on cold wintry nights, they gathered together ingredients. The intent was good, to bake a pie, a plain pie, and bake the dead. And when they sat to eat, they asked one to go fetch water. To the stream they ran. They trusted the others. After all, they had toiled together. On their return, alas, the pie was devoured. The crumbs were not even saved to recognize their toil, to even give them a taste of their efforts, their resilience. The pie was gone. Its crumbs fed to the animals and birds. The pain was deep. Never again. Tears welled in their eyes, even as they held their heads up high and drank the water they had fetched, sharing with them that had robbed them of their food and hard work. Thank you.
And now for our keynote speaker, Dr. Diane Clare-Kearney is here today with us. Dr. Kearney attended Lincoln University in Pennsylvania and received a bachelor's degree in English and French. She received her master's and sixth-year degree from Central Connecticut in educational administration and her doctorate degree from Nova Southeastern University in 2012. Dr. Clare-Kearney is currently the Director of Adult Education and Race and Equity and has been an educator for the past 35 years. She taught English and French at the high school level and has served as a vice principal and a principal at both elementary and secondary levels. Dr. Clare-Kearney is instrumental in developing programs for young adults to foster leadership and citizenship. She's been awarded several awards for her work, including P through 12 Multicultural Educator of the Year, the 2018 Honoring Friends Award, the 2019 George A. Coleman Award for Excellence in Equity, and the Honorable John W. Buckner Leadership Award in 2022. Dr. Diane Kearney was recently appointed Board of Directors and serves on the CERC Operations Committee. That's the State Education Research Center Council. It's the C? Yeah. She continues to be completely devoted to the children and families of our community. In 2020, her portrait was included in the town building mural that highlighted notable artists in the struggle to eradicate racism and to uplift equity. Dr. Clare-Kearney believes that race is the container that holds all the identities. So beginning with race is first and foremost. It's my great pleasure to introduce and welcome Dr. Clare-Kearney as our keynote speaker today. Diane?
Thank you so much. Have to say, I am so impressed. Black History 24/7, 365. We're only lifting it up this month, but we live it every day. So appreciate that. And to Deborah Weymouth, I just can't say enough. You know, we go back a couple years, and when I say that someone gets it, that means they really understand how race shows up in our lives. And she gets it. So I just can't say enough. And then, of course, to Nina and to Kim for having me here. Thank you. So now, before I start, though, I do have a few disclaimers. Again, because race is difficult to talk about, and that's what I'm going to talk about today. So when talking about race, I have to share these disclosures because people get upset, defensive, uncomfortable, they shut down, and so I don't want anyone to do that. I want you to remain engaged. And I don't share my thoughts today to offend or hurt anyone. I share my thoughts to open the door to have courageous and difficult conversations about what divides us with the goal of uniting us. So race, to begin with, is a social construct. It's made up. It shouldn't even exist. But it's used to create and maintain systems of power and equality. So that's number one. My second disclaimer is there is a tent on each of your desks or each of your tables, and that's a protocol. And when you find yourself shutting down, getting defensive, not agreeing, don't want to hear it, look at that protocol, because that's what's going to keep you engaged and hopefully as comfortable as you can. It's okay to be uncomfortable. And so that's, again, to avoid all of those discomforts that might come up. And if you are feeling uncomfortable, you sometimes have to ask yourself, why am I feeling uncomfortable? Not why is Diane making me feel uncomfortable, but why am I feeling uncomfortable? And then finally, there's also this sheet of paper, which we use in Manchester, and it's called the Core Lines of Action. Everyone should have a copy of that as well. And this is what we use to do race and equity work alongside the protocol. And that means if you're integrating the personal and interpersonal, which Deborah did a great job lifting up today, if you're integrating the personal and interpersonal into what you do every day operationally, your operation will become the place that we all dream about. On the back of this is a poem that I don't want you to read now, because I know you're going to want to, but don't. Try. That I'll reference at the end, barring time. All right. So now you can really start timing me. That didn't count. So it's a pleasure to be here this morning. I appreciate the invitation during a time when we are being indirectly pushed to divide. Black history is being compromised every day, but it's important for the survival of my soul, of all of our souls, and for the preservation of American history. If we erase Black history, we are eliminating American history, which is a threat to all of us. I'm encouraged that you find honoring the history of Black people to be important because it lifts up the many contributions, achievements, and of course, resilience of Black people, providing a more and complete, accurate understanding of American history, because Black history is American history. But before I even get into what I'm going to talk about, we have to do a check-in. So I want to know how you are. I know you each want to know how each other is at the table. So I want you to ask your neighbor, what gets you up in the morning? And so you see this, you can turn this piece of paper over now. There's one on every table. Okay? Everyone grab that? And I want you to take a minute to chat with a neighbor, to find out a little bit about who's sitting next to you. What gets you up in the morning? Because aren't you curious? I'm dying to know who's in here. Nurses, doctors, community people, which we sort of got a sense of. And what inspires us to want to help those in the most vulnerable states. And the only way that you can find that out is through a conversation. And that's because, and through communication. And that's because everything you want to know can be found in a conversation, which is the seed of knowledge. So you don't start yet. Don't start yet. I know some of you because it's important that you understand why I'm doing this, right? And what I'm trying to say is the only way that we will ever understand who's around us is by having a conversation with the people around us and not make assumptions about who's around us based on what they look like or based on what they may say or may not say. And so I want you to hear me when I say that you can find knowledge in a conversation, and that's why it's important, right? So knowledge is the seed for change. Every interaction I have has to start with a conversation. And if we did more of that, I think we would trust each other more, we would eliminate fear, and we would bridge the divides that exist between us. So I'm going to give you 1 minute to do this. So that means you got 30 seconds each, because I'm on a timeline here.
Still didn't ask the question.
30 seconds to bring to life what gets you up in the morning. And our motto, which is all on this sheet. My children, my grandchildren, my dogs, my passion to make this world a better place through conversations. You see, I'm on a mural in Manchester, which I take pride in. That's me in my younger days, which was only a few years ago, you guys. And then, of course, French fries, steak, and salad. Now I know I'm in a hospital, right? French fries and steak. But I do eat salad every day. So now with your neighbor, 30 seconds each. What gets you up in the morning?
That's only
So I want to just say this. This is what happens. I am a believer, and when I say I am a believer, I am a woman of God. I've noticed in these arenas we do not speak on that, and I can't hold that back. That's who I am. So when I wake up, what makes me happy? It's my faith. It's my relationship with God, knowing that it was not me that woke Sheila up, but it was him. And I just want to say that I can no longer, God tells us, do not walk in fear. He did not give us a spirit of fear, but he gave us, he wants us to stand tall with him. I can't sit here and say, oh, I can't or I shouldn't say this. No, I am going to say it because it's what he put in me to speak. So I just wanted to share that on today, that it is God, my faith, my trust, my believing in him, that he is in control of my life and destiny.
So much for sharing. We needed that. Thank you so much. And as I said, everything you want to know can be found in a simple conversation. You just got to know someone. You just got to know someone in 2 minutes. Unfortunately, we're afraid to have conversations, especially with those who don't run in our circles, or look like us, or make us uncomfortable, or challenge our beliefs. But here's the thing. Our experiences, or what we have been taught to believe, shape our beliefs. And our beliefs then shape our behaviors. And our behaviors determine our outcomes, or the choices that we make. Sadly, our experiences and our behaviors are getting in the way of transformation because we often rely solely on that without branching out. And then our ability to unify across race, gender, sexual orientation, age, and other identities becomes compromised. And then the end result, of course, is racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, ageism, and the list goes on. You notice I have to always include ageism, even though I swear I'm 35. And so today, I want to talk to you about how knowing what you know and what you don't know could serve as a seed to unity, equity, and to justice. That means you have to know yourself, which is the personal work, and you have that on your table, right? This is what we use to unpack who we are, doing the personal work, an archaeological dig of self. And then you have to know who's living next to you, who's working with you, who's working for you. That's the interpersonal. Now you got to know your audience. Prioritize the power of relationship. Know who's coming into the hospital and what they come with. What is in their invisible backpack? Because we all have one, right? Because we've all experienced some sort of trauma. So everybody has a backpack. You just can't see it, but it's there. When I go off script, this is what happens. But if you prioritize these two things, the personal and interpersonal, your organization, as I said, will thrive. It will unify. And that's why in Manchester Public Schools, we do a check-in in every meeting, as you just participated in. All administrators have an interracial partner whom they meet with weekly or bi-weekly to engage in conversations, easy and difficult ones, to build relationships and to build their knowledge and skill set around differences that exist in all of us. And this mitigates the trust factors for people of color and the fear inhibition that exists for white people. So now I want to share with you what shows up when you're solely leaning on what you think you know because of what you've been taught to believe. The end result is either erosion of trust from one group or the climb of fear from the other. So how many of you have heard of Frederick Hoffman? Okay. Frederick Hoffman was a German immigrant who was the chief statistician for the Prudential Insurance Company. He wrote a book in 1896 called Race Traits and Tendencies of the American Negro. Hoffman stipulated that minority racial groups were barriers to progress. He believed that black people died early because they're inferior, and they are inferior because they die early. So he theorized, since white people control the politics and most of the economy of the United States, that if we deny health care to black people, the black race would die out in 2 or 3 generations, and that would solve the race problem in America. How does that hit you? Especially if you're black and you didn't choose to come to America. And if this is where you're feeling defensive or you're questioning what I'm saying, look at the protocol. That's where you lean into the discomfort. He took this theory, pitched it to Congress, gave lectures all across the US, met with governors and physicians, and this man was the co-founder of the American Lung Association. So he was powerful, he was beloved, he was respected, and people took him seriously. And this is why in 1912, Teddy Roosevelt proposed a single-payer healthcare system to cover everyone when he was running for re-election. But it got shot down because white people basically said, wait a minute. If you cover everybody with health insurance, you'll be covering black people too, and we can't have that. So that ended that discussion. But then it happened again in 1936 with Franklin Roosevelt. He tried it. With Harry Truman in 1947, he tried it. And yes, again with John Kennedy in 1961. They all tried to get universal health care. But black people, we can't do that. Black people will get that health care. Now, mind you, this was all coded using laws and political jargon to mask the root of what was really happening. So when you Google it, you're not going to find it easily. Now, nothing was necessarily said out loud. But it reminds me of Heather McGee's research from The Sum of Us, where she spoke to many people across the country. But in Alabama, they shut down a public pool because they were expected to integrate, right, in the 1960s. That community said, no, 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 no. And so they shut down the pool because black people were now allowed to go to the pool. So no one benefited. And this is why, when bringing it back, Lyndon Johnson and Robert Ball were writing the Medicare law in 1965. The Southern racist conservative senators came to them and said, you need to build a bar high enough so that poor black people in the South won't be able to jump over that bar and show up at our all-white hospitals. So they took Medicare B and said, we're only going to pay 80% of the hospitalization. There will be a 20% gap, which is the gap you fill with your Medigap policy. And that gap was to prevent black people from presenting themselves in hospitals unless it was an absolute screaming life-ending emergency. What do you think this does? It empowers fear. So from the beginning through the 1960s, the reason why the US never acknowledged healthcare as a right rather than a privilege was because of Hoffman's theories and racism intertwined. That kind of thinking prevailed right up until the 1980s. Well, actually, wait, nothing changed really until Barack. But it makes sense to me. All of this makes sense to me. And I believe this because do you know who treated enslaved blacks when they got sick? Veterinarians. Not doctors, not physicians. Now, mind you, I'm an animal lover. So I got mad respect for veterinarians. But that's what we get? This is going to feed trust issues. I continue to believe it because there's also drapetomania. You guys have heard of that? You know, that's when enslaved people who tried to escape, they said that they were suffering from a mental illness, that they had drapetomania, because slaves loved to be slaves. And then there's negritude. That's a literary and cultural movement in the 20th century celebrating black identity, heritage, and resistance against colonial oppression. Same thing. And the Tuskegee study of untreated syphilis in black men, you guys are aware of that. And we're not acknowledging all the wrongs in this. We're afraid to own that this happened. We're afraid to call it racism. We're afraid to have the conversations because it's uncomfortable. And again, you have the protocol if you need it. And this is where it gets hard. What makes it really complicated is that if we have been taught by the people who we love and who love us, your family, my family, our family, to believe that these things are true and normal, then this is going to shape our behavior, right? Because those are the experience that your family exposed you to. And that will inform decisions that you make with everyone around you. It trickles down generationally in the same way traditions do, whether it's overt or covert. And if you're only around people who look like you, like-minded, these are the people you trust. So why would the people you trust be wrong or encourage you to think or act differently? And so this will impact how you show up. Thus, the trust issues and the fear that exists between races will continue. Blacks tried to make up for the discrepancies by creating their own insurance companies, the Free African Society, the African Insurance Company, North Carolina Mutual Life Insurance, but they could never thrive due to government regulations, exclusions from federal benefit program, and the economic shifts. So don't tell me to pull myself up by my bootstraps. And then we fast forward to more recent history, COVID. My mom sadly passed away from COVID on March 25th, 2020. And even though COVID was and is equally contagious, Hispanic, Black, Asian, Indigenous, and Pacific Islanders had higher rates of COVID cases and deaths than whites. Many were skeptical about even getting the vaccine, of course. I'm sure that didn't help. And research says that the underlying structural inequities in health and healthcare and social and economic factors place people of color at increased risk at the outset of the pandemic. Now, as a Black woman, what do you think I'm going to believe based on these experiences, these realities? And as white people, why wouldn't I say that's not true? Trust becomes a dividing factor. Defensiveness becomes our reality. Frustration becomes our norm. And if we don't talk about it through interracial conversations, if we don't unpack what we've been taught, if we don't lift up the elephant in the room, then we form our own opinions and beliefs, and then that drives the outcome. Trust and fear reign and empower the wedge between us. Now, to bring this closer to home, right, and to the current day, my daughter was pregnant with her first child in 2021. She was due on December 20th. She goes to the hospital for a scheduled induction on December 29th. I'm unable to go, and I'm a little bit of a controller, but I'm unable to go because of COVID. So guess what I'm thinking already? You can imagine, right? This is crazy. Why hasn't she delivered yet? This has got to be about race. They don't care. You're Black, Taylor. And all of the things happened. Now, mind you, I don't know, but I'm just assuming. I don't know any of the facts, but I'm just assuming. And I'm going to assume the worst. And I know as medical professions, you're saying to yourself, but you don't know all the facts. It didn't matter to me, because all I know is my daughter's Black. So all the things happened, fluctuating heart rates, everything. All I knew is all the statistics about women dying at the hands of doctors while giving birth are coming up. With a national mortality rate of 6.7 times higher for Black people, not just necessarily giving birth. That's the highest ever. That's the highest of all the racial groups. The next is compared to 4 times higher for Indigenous people. But in Taylor's mind, my daughter, she's leaning on the fact that her partner's a white man. And she told him to speak up and be an advocate because they'll listen to him. Finally, at 7 o'clock, they switched shifts. A Black man walked in with scrubs on. And they said that you're going to have a C-section. In my mind, why didn't it take so long? Why did it take the Black doctor to arrive at this conclusion? Again, all this is going in my mind. I'm not saying that that's what actually happened, right? But this is what's going on in my mind. She called me and cried, expressing fear and concern about the C-section. She told me that the doctor was Black, and we said, oh, thank you, Jesus. So now I want you to do a turn and talk. Again, I want you to marinate on what I just shared with you. I want you to pretend that I came to you and said that this was racism at its finest, And I want you to discuss with your partner what you plan to say to me, because I'm going to come to meet with you and tell you that this hospital is racist. Don't ask me the name of the hospital. I'm not going to share. Okay? But I want you to tell me, what are you going to tell me? So take a minute with a partner. What advice are you going to give me? Think and use this as your guide. Use this as your guide. Remember the paper in front of you? Would love to hear what you talked about, but I do hope that no one said, I need to find out the facts. And I wonder if someone could tell me why we wouldn't start with, we need to start with the facts. Can anyone answer that and tell me why that's not where you would start? Yes, sir.
Trying to connect as human beings. The first question in that is, how's your daughter?
Right.
Yes.
How's she doing?
Yes. Yes. All of that.
It's making that connection and learning how, and my force and my perspective is that I live in a world of I have to be able to put it into a warrant. I have to deal with the facts in the end. So what do I get trained to do? What do I have to work with it?
Right.
I got to get beyond that. We'll get to the facts later.
Yes.
To talk first.
And you get to the facts later because that's your job. Operationally, you already know how to do your job. I know. Right. It's the personal and interpersonal. It's understanding where we are and what we believe and how it shapes how we interact with one another. So know your audience. And the good news is my daughter is right there. Raise your hand, daughter. And my grandbaby, who was in question. Raise your hand, Aspen. That's her. She's a little shy. But that's the work. And I will say it ended well. I ended up going to the mayor. The mayor connected me with the president of the hospital. And that president sat down with me with their COO. And all they did was listen to me. Listen to my daughter and listen to my daughter's partner. That's all they did. They just listened. And even though I know I was saying crazy things, I think it's because of insurance. And you know, right? It's insurance, it's discrimination. And all they did was nod, right? And then later on explain to me, you know, all the operational things that I have no clue about. But what I knew about was how I felt. What I knew about was how my daughter felt and what it looked like racially. That's what I knew. So to try to dissuade me otherwise was never going to work, right? And I am forever grateful. And my daughter, obviously, she gave birth to. You want me to say it? Manchester Memorial. And who was the president? Deborah. Please give her a round of applause because. And Mark Brunetti, I'm just so grateful to them. So grateful, forever. Just because of that. Just because of that little thing. By listening to me here. So it ended fine. And this is why my daughter gave birth the second and the third time around. I made sure to have conversations with every doctor, nurse, midwife, and anesthesiologist. Even though the anesthesiologist said to me, there are no racist people in this hospital. I said, okay. I reminded them of the disproportionalities we face at the end of, at the hands of medical personnel. I wanted them to see color and to acknowledge our experiences and our reluctancy and trust issues. So in conclusion, because I know the choir's trying to get back in here, you know, you see all of this can be resolved in a conversation, a courageous conversation, but you have to be aware of what you know and what you don't know about yourself before you say a word. Thus the reasons for having interracial partners. If you're not in a community on a regular basis with people who don't look like you, not willing to get to know one another, then there are things that you're not going to know. But what happens is trust continues to erode and fear continues to spike. There's one distinction, however. Black people and people of color didn't create a vigilante group to take out white people, but some white people created a vigilante group to take out black people. They were called the KKK. So the playing field continues to be imbalanced, all rooted in what we've been taught to believe, but we can change that through a conversation. The forces that seek to divide us thrive our confusion and complacency. We've got to be calibrated in our convictions, clear in our purpose, united in our commitment to justice, and ready to amplify truth. When we come together with knowledge, intention, and clarity on how to show up and confront what we know and what we don't know, we can dismantle the barriers that have persisted far too long. Because when we stand in alignment, when we act with both courage and compassion, we do more than just imagine a better world, we build it. So in preparation for this presentation, I asked a colleague of mine, Mr. Ryan Parker, a poet, an activist, a father, a lover of chocolate chip cookies, to write a poem about how healthcare shows up for him. And this is what he wrote, and it's on the back. So I don't have time to really share it because I know we have to have the singers come back. But thank you so much for giving me this opportunity. I hope you took something away from this. Thank you so much. I want to acknowledge my team. I've got my team here. Thank you guys so much. Thank you so much.
Great job. Thank you, Diane. And as Diane mentioned, the Bloomfield High School Gospel Choir coming back to join us. Full choir this time, I believe.
Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, going home to live with God. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, going home to live with God. I want to meet my mother. I want to meet my mother. I want to meet my mother. I'm going to live with God. I want to meet my mother. I want to meet my mother. I want to meet my mother. I'm going to live with God. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, going home to live with God. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, going home to live with God. No more wailing, no more wailing, no more weeping and a wailing. I'm going to live with God. No more wailing, no more wailing, no more wailing, no more wailing, weeping, no wailing, no more wailing, no more weeping. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, going home to live with God. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world, the troubles of the world. Sooner we'll be done with the troubles of the world, going home to live with God. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. I'm going to live with God. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. I want to meet my Jesus. I'm going to live with God. I'm going to last time. Everybody clap your hands. All right, y'all? You remember, how many remember from last time? All right, y'all want to clap with us? All right, come on, Malik, let's go. Okay, here we go. You all right? 1, 2.
Thank you. That was awesome. Okay, you want to just stay here the rest of the day? We'll just do that all day, right? I think so too. That's the close of our program. Again, we're so appreciative you came. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed the day. Please take the items that were handed out. Thank you again, Dr. Kearney, for our keynote. That was wonderful. And I hope you all have a great day and year. Thanks so much.